Hey everyone, welcome back to the Elevate podcast, the thought leadership platform designed for behavioral health executives navigating growth, innovation, and impact. Today's conversation is a tad different than usual. We're focusing on adolescent treatment because when a teen is struggling, the question isn't just where do we send them? It's how do we truly help them come out of that suffering? And for parents searching for help, this isn't a typical decision. It's highly emotional, it's urgent, deeply personal. In adolescent treatment, trust isn't just built through a marketing funnel, it's built through connection, credibility, and transparency. And that's exactly what we're here to unpack today. Joining us is Zack Schafer, Executive Director at Mountain Valley Treatment Center, who has taken a quite unconventional path from therapist to now executive leader at just the age of 31. And he's built a model that is centered around relationships, openness, and storytelling. From being directly involved in both admission conversations to creating content through his podcast that helps facilities truly understand the program before they even ever arrive to the facility, Zach is showing what it actually takes to earn the trust in the teen treatment space. Zach, welcome to the show. So good to have you here.
Thanks, Gary. Pleasure to be here, man. Thank you.
Fantastic. Zach, just for the listeners, can you give us a brief background on yourself and how did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I appreciate that. So I got into the helping professions at a really young age, actually. I draw back to experiences that I had back in fourth grade. I was a rambunctious young little boy and actually got into a little bit of trouble in school. And a part of my corrective action was to go to a special needs classroom in my school and help out with some special needs kids. And I fell in love with it. And it was something that I was, if I could say so, I was really good at. It felt like my silliness. I have an undiagnosed ADHD. And so a lot of what I got in trouble for in class was just being a class clown and being silly and making people laugh. But that actually was exactly what a lot of those kids in that special needs environment needed, was someone who can connect and relate and be funny and engage. And so it felt, not only was I making a big difference, but it felt like a place where I was safe to be myself and to express myself in a good way. So my parents say from that time forward, I always knew and talked about wanting to get into helping. Continued to down that path. In high school, I had the opportunity to do a little bit of an internship with the occupational therapist at our high school. And for those of you that don't know, occupational therapy is a profession that works with people who are suffering from any kind of disability, whether it be a mental health challenge, a physical disability, post-stroke rehab, post-physical challenge like surgery or something along those lines. It's really a profession that's focused on how do we help these people be able to participate in life again? And so I really love working with kids with autism in high school, helping them figure out their place in the world. Were they going to be a waiter? Were they going to go into the trades? What were they going to do? And how are they going to find meaning and purpose in the world around them? And so after that experience in high school, I decided to go to school for OT. And I thought I would work with kids with autism. That was going to be my focus. And then in graduate school, I lost my best friend to suicide. And when that happened, I pivoted a little bit and decided that the mental health world and teenagers and young people struggling with mental health conditions was where I kind of wanted to focus. And that led me into pursuing OT for mental health. I worked in inpatient psychiatry for a few years. I didn't love the big hospital systems, the bureaucracy, the difficulty with treating patients with dignity and respect a little bit. It was something that I was having a really hard time with some of my colleagues. And so I started to look for alternative treatment environments, and that was where I found Mountain Valley. And then at Mountain Valley, I pitched myself. They didn't have OT there. I pitched the profession of OT and what we do. They took a chance on me and hired me 4 years ago. And then in the past 4 years, or 5 years now, I've gone through a series of promotions, and now I'm leading the whole program, the executive director. So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but it's been really fun.
Wow, impressive. Congratulations. And thank you for the great work you do. I listened to a couple of your podcast episodes. We'll get into that later. And as a father for a 13-year-old daughter and experiencing firsthand how today's, I recently read what is it called? The anxious generation. And like this is just, there's such a need for great therapists and good programs that helps teenagers. It's more challenging to be a teen now than ever, probably. So thank you for that great work. Now, given your path to your current role as now executive director at Mountain Valley, coming up as a therapist, etc., how has that like just shaped your entire view when it comes to census growth or admissions processes? Is that been steered a certain direction because of your path?
Yeah, I think it has. And I'll be the first to admit, like in my role, I still struggle sometimes with imposter syndrome as I go around the industry and meet with other executive directors who got MBAs or were more business oriented. And they're talking about KPIs and these acronyms that I am still learning and reading about and trying to understand. I think what people want more than anything is to feel connected and they want to feel like in a relationship with the people that are helping them. And therapy is all relationship. There's enough research out there that shows that the actual clinical modality only means so much, and that 80% of therapeutic progress is dictated by the quality of the relationship that you have with the therapist. And so I've just really leaned on that. I'm like, what I was trained in and what I'm good at is building relationships and connecting. And so let me see if I just leverage that as the focus of all of our marketing, of all the ways we engage with clients from the time they admit to the time that they leave our care. Like, how do we build a relationship? How do we get to know them on a personal level? And how do we allow them to get to know us? Right. I think that that's something in our industry that's a little bit, I'm seeing a shift and I love it. But like when I was trained in school, it was like, you don't self disclose, you don't tell people who you are. Even in some of the early psych hospitals I worked at, like you weren't allowed to put your last name on the badge, And it was just this disconnect between patient and person serving the patients. And so we take a totally radically opposite approach of just, what do you want to know? Like, you can know what how I got here and my own personal story to why I'm here. Do you want to meet my kids? Do you want to meet my wife? Do you want to meet my family? You should. And I think about it now, I'm a new dad. I wouldn't want to hand over my child to someone who I didn't feel like I knew really well.
Yeah.
And even when you think about it from that lens and the parents that we're working with, they want to know people in a really authentic way. So that's really, I think, what we lean on when I think about how do we present ourselves in the marketplace.
That makes complete sense. And when you're saying building relationships, I'm assuming obviously as a therapeutic standpoint, with the family counsel or the actual teen as well, it's establishing relationships for all the participants across in the family relationship. But as an executive director and like executing that, what does a normal day to day look like from a relationship building standpoint?
It looked like spending a lot of time on the ground and a lot of time on the phone with families. We serve families from all over the country, so not everyone's local, right? But my office is right near the front door to the facility. And when the doorbell rings and someone shows up, there's a good percent that I'm the first one that opens the door and shakes the hand and says, "Hey, welcome to Mount Valley. Who are you here to meet with today?" Or a parent comes to pick up a kid for a weekend visit, making sure that I'm around to say hi and to say hello, check in and see how the process is going. We run support groups for our parents who are enrolled in the program. I facilitate the support groups. And there's been a bunch of people that are like, "You're not a therapist anymore. You don't need to do that." And I'm like, that's my chance to connect with all the parents all at once. I can get them all in a room at the same time and they can get to know me, and I'm doing them from home, and they can see my little kids running around in the background, and they can just see the humanness that's going into the lead that's serving their child. Right. So they can way.
Fantastic. That completely resonates with me as a parent. I can see why I would gravitate towards a facility that have that kind of openness, candid approach to it and showing things as they are. Why was that kind of openness approach to it? Was that a main motivation or one of the factors that made you launch your own podcast? How did you get to launching the podcast, and how has that helped you in terms of growing census and credibility, establishing trust, etc.?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. And I wish I could say yes, that was why, but it wasn't actually. We launched the podcast because we thought we were super smart and wanted to share all of the cool knowledge that we have with everybody out there. In the beginning of the podcast, I did an alumni episode with one of our alumni who shared his story, and it took off as far as downloads. We had all of these previous episodes with experts from the field and other people on our team talking about the clinical work, and the downloads were here. And all of a sudden we had one young adolescent who was very well spoken, granted, come on and tell a story that just went boom. And I was just like, duh, Zach, people don't want to hear you talk about what you're doing. They want to hear the stories from the people who've been through it. And again, I think it's about that. They want to relate, and they relate to it. It goes back to that word, like relationship, right? The parent hears it and they're like, that sounds like my child. That could be mine, comes out the other side in that kind of way. So we've used it to, now when I do have other staff from our facility on the podcast, it's much more about their story and what brought them down the valley, less about them talking from a place of expertise about some kind of particular topic, because that's what people want to hear. They want to know who their child's clinician is, what got them to this work, and then what they're passionate about and their background, right? It's been a huge asset for us. We've had, I think a lot of people in this industry know getting the inquiries isn't always hard. It's getting the conversions that difficult, right? And that's where we've had a lot of parents come back to us and say, this pushed us over the edge to say yes, right? It was like this podcast, this kid, or this podcast of this past parent came on and shared their story. This really,
phenomenal. Do you have, maybe just for the sake of curious as well, for the listeners, can you recall a specific episode where a family pointed out this was maybe the deciding factor of choosing Mountain Valley over another treatment program, listening to an episode or something like that?
Yeah, it just happened recently, actually. We had a parent, and I didn't know this on the front side. It was on day of admission before the parents leave. They sit down with me. It's the last stop that they'd have. And we were talking, and she was like, I just want you to know, we got a call from McLean Hospital yesterday, and we've been on the wait list with McLean 4 months, and McLean's got a world-renowned OCD program. They're very good. They're good friends and colleagues of ours. And she was like, and we thought about, we just got off the wait list. Do we change our mind last minute? And she said, the reason I didn't was because of this podcast episode that I listened to, where with you, with one of the other girls who's been through your program, talking about how your guys' treatment center not only helped address her OCD, but really helped her connect with who she was again, really helped her connect with who she was as a person. And then we realized that although this may be more clinically oriented, world-renowned, very clinically focused program might be really good at treating the OCD, but what we're looking for is something much more, right? We were able to really understand that through the way that this podcast episode resonated with us. So it happens all the time. And it's kind of cool. My admissions director just came into my office today and showed me a text message from a mom who's inquiring saying, hey, I just heard your podcast on Spotify and I have a son who's struggling and I'm wondering if you guys might be able to help. Right. So it's taken a while to get there. It's good. No, right. We got 105 episodes out now, and you have a podcast, Gary, too, right? It's just about repetition and content and consistency and finding what people want to listen to, which can be hard. It's a changing target, but once you get it, it can be a really helpful way to engage with families in the process.
Amen. Have you, as you mentioned, your admissions director came in and did some references to episodes that were the deciding factor. Does your admissions team or marketing team use it in other ways? Things that comes to mind is, and you guys specialize in anxiety and OCD. Maybe there's certain snippets of a podcast or episodes that you would share with parents as a next step for conversation. Take a listen to this episode to better understand X, Y, Z. Do they use it as a admissions enablement tool in that sense?
Yes, I think a lot of programs do. After you get an inquiry from a family, right, there's a follow-up email that you send with the next steps or some sort of form of electronic communication with the next steps. And in that next steps, here's the formal application. Please connect us with your child's therapist. here's the link to set up a Zoom call, which I'd love to talk about too. The whole meeting the client ahead of time and building the relationship before they're even enrolled piece. But then at the bottom, it says, and here's all of our suggested podcast episodes for you to listen to. So it's built right into the system. Yeah.
Phenomenal. So good to hear. Let's speak a little bit on your comment in terms of, through our conversations, you mentioned a lot on maybe the transparency that the industry needs and putting yourself out there front and center, explaining the details, opening up your doors for families. So what does that look like at Mount Valley, and how did you get to where you are today? What kind of experiences did you encounter that made you just double down on your current approach?
Yeah, and this is a really great opportunity for me to make sure that I am very clear in saying I'm new to running this program, and I joined this program 5 years ago, and this was not the podcast. And I think we've doubled down, like you said, on the relationship piece of things, but this was the style in which this program was running when I showed up too. The executive for me was the founder of Mountain Valley, and he is just the warmest guy. He's just like Mr. Rogers. He's just the nicest guy. And I remember shadowing him when I first got hired. He wanted me to watch him because he wanted me to, as a good leader does, he wants his style to be emulated in the organization as parts of the brand, carry ourselves, right? And the way he would relate and sit down with a parent and talk about where their grandparents went to high school. And he's one of those connection guys where he knows somebody from everywhere and was like always able to tie things in. So I just want to say that piece was always there from the very beginning. And then I think, as you said, I've just doubled down on it a bit. I think in our industry, previously, there was I don't know how to say this. I want to say that I'm just state my intentions at a time. I'm saying this with no assumptions of the intentions. It's just how the industry work. In the same way that I was talking about, we don't put our names on our badges and we can't know where I'm from. There was that same air of, hey, we want you to get to know us, but we don't want you to get to know us too well because we're worried that you might get anxious about coming and then not end up coming because you might find something that you don't like, right? And so we don't have that kind of approach. It's just open door, come tour. Want to sit down with another kid in the program and hear about them without me in the room monitoring the conversation, please do. Here's a list of all of that I've agreed to talk to people. Pick a number and call. You feel free to just reach out and connect with other people who've been through this experience. We have nothing to hide. Anything that comes up, please call us and talk to us about it. And we're not going to make an excuse either, right? Like that's really a piece of, yeah, we did do that. Like that wasn't the best way we handled that. And here are some of the changes we've made since then. And I appreciate you bringing that up. And if that's the reason why you don't want to come, that's okay. And I would understand that from a parent's perspective. Making outcomes very visible, not doctoring your outcomes, right? So I know a lot of people have their internal outcomes that they use for quality improvement internally, and then the outcomes that they share from a marketing perspective. Our outcomes are our outcomes. The reports that I use internally to do quality improvement are the same reports we publish on our website. There's no difference. There's nothing taken out. There's nothing redacted, right? It's just the honest truth. And there's still a lot of skepticism there, I think, from families around whether that is the whole story or not. But all I can do on my end is control my end. And I know that I'm being fully transparent in the best way.
That's phenomenal. I think that's what the industry needs more of. And I know there's players like ERP Health, etc., that's trying to systemize outcomes and making maybe it more for a validated source point of view. I think not necessarily just them as a platform, but as an industry, I think that's where everything is trending towards in terms of contract payer negotiation, focusing on who actually delivers best outcomes and how can they get more business and help more people get the care they deserve. Why do you think, in your view, because you mentioned the example of the name tag and not displaying the last name, or maybe not bringing in families for a visit, or having that transparent approach you have to them being able to attend a session. Why do you think there's the current, that perception, or maybe the fear in the industry of having that candidness, open approach? Why do you, in your view, what do you think is causing that?
Yeah, I think rightfully you're trying to run a business. I think that there's just sometimes the sales piece of things gets into it, and you want to let people, you want to put your best foot forward. And sometimes I think people are afraid that someone's going to find something that they don't like. They're going to come into the facility and the day, maybe your cleaning staff missed the smudge on the wall that day, right? The family notices that the environment's not cleaned up. But I think fear, I think you've named it really well. It's just there's a fear of like, I don't want to show you fully who we are because I'm afraid I'm going to lose the sale. And what I have found is that because you showed us fully who you are, the good stuff and the flaws, things you guys do wrong, you're not perfect. We're not coming to you because we think you're perfect. We're coming to you because we think you're honest. We want to work with honest people, right? And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So completely can understand maybe the concern or the fear in that sense. At the same time, I think it's just from my experience, humble experience working with 45 facilities now and of all shapes and sizes, I just see very good at identifying patterns and putting it front and center, making your team accountable, making it genuine across the board that these are the outcomes and we own what our approach to is essentially just shining light on numbers, metrics, patient satisfaction, the outcomes, etc. Essentially, team comes together and lives task. And I always position it in the way that when you're building out a marketing funnel or campaign and so forth, you can have a landing page and you can position it and you can skew the data and numbers so forth. But the best performing landing pages and marketing programs I know is where they're not using stock photos. It's authentic. There's real names, real testimonials. There's actual strong focus on alumni because people want to resonate. They don't care about the marketing copy. They want to understand that person who got help. Can I relate to that person? And if you can establish that connection, then it's genuine and they're driven because they have obviously a motivation to get better. And I think it's the same whether it's a restaurant. If you go to a Michelin, a 3-star restaurant, it's an open kitchen. You can watch in, you can see the fresh ingredients is out there. So I think it goes a long way. Obviously, it's a paradigm shift. Maybe if you've been operating a different way, but once you get it right, I think you can, in your view, you can experience it. Maybe do you use less marketing resources that you did previously with this transparent approach, that getting families in? Are you seeing what you would say above industry benchmark conversion rates, increased length of stay, lower AMA rates, etc., as a result of having this approach so people know what they're walking into?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think lower AMA rates for sure. People were like, yep, this is what you told me it was going to be like, right? And one of our things is we used to pitch for a 90-day treatment program. Well, kids were staying a lot longer than 90 days. That was just the truth. It was what it was taking to get the work done, right? And now it's very honest. It's 90 to 120 days. And I honestly don't know where your child's going to fall on that spectrum. And for a parent that's paying $1,200 a day out of pocket for treatment, right? Like the difference between the 90 days and 100 days and 105 days is a lot of money. And so for them to be willing to take that risk, not knowing, I think says a lot about how much they trust that we're going to be honest and that we're going to protect final resources and we're not going to exploit them, right? And that we're really in this for the best interest of your child. They must believe that if they're willing to take that risk. I know I don't love to buy things without certainty of what it's going to cost at the end of the day. That makes me feel anxious thinking about it. And so I can only imagine how our families feel.
Yeah.
And I think one thing too, Gary, that you touched on, if I can expand a little bit, allow the people to talk to the other people who are in the care now or have been through the care. Your alumni are like your best resources that you have. And like the landing page is like the first thing. They read the testimonial, then they get to talk to me or they get to talk to my missions director or our clinical director or somebody else. But like, they need to talk to people who have been through the experience. No one is going to resonate with them as much as someone who they feel like was in their shoes at one point in time in a very real way. And, I don't think a lot of people are optimizing their alumni engagement and using their alumni, and I say using, but not kindly, leveraging some of their alumni relationships to get people more help that they need, right? And I've had some alumni text me afterwards, hey, you sent me so-and-so the other day, and like, they were really on the fence, but like, I told them like, you need to do this. I could tell you're exactly like where I was. And like, you really need this. And like, those people are going to help you, and get off Reddit, get off of all those platforms that are feeding, poor information to troubled teen industry. That's not accurate. So like, talking to somebody who's been there, and like, I've been there, and Zach's a good guy, and like, he's going to care about you. Like, he cares about his own family. Being able to use those alumni relationships, I think, is really important, which is something you're really big on too, right? Alumni networking. Yeah.
Huge. I think for all the reasons in the world, especially what you said, but I think I would say like nobody can sell your program like an alumni, right? To your point, like it just enhances credibility. You have a proven case study. They can resonate. They will explain it in a way that it's hard for a marketer to do it in any shape or form, to say, here's what concerned me walking into it. And I was thinking about that. And will it be, what will the price tag be? And I was worried they didn't understand me or our situation. They bring up these things a little bit organically comes across very net. And that's something that folks really resonate with. So using it as marketing credibility amplifier is huge. In your case, I'm just curious, I can imagine that both applies to the parent, connecting one parent to another, as well as the patient, the teen, to another teen in many scenarios. Is one more common than another when giving access to alumni?
Yeah, I think that the parent is definitely more common. And it's not because we're not allowing the alumni, the current prospective resident or teen to connect with an alumni. We are. Just the nature of their anxiety disorder, they're less likely to actually follow through on the opportunity that's there. And a lot of times what we love to do is have families come spend half a day with us. And then when they're there and the kid gets a little bit more warmed up, we kind of say, hey, would you mind if I invited some of the other kids who are in the program in for you to hang out with them for a little bit, and I'll step out, and they just want to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. They wondering if you're going to come join us, and they just kind of want to get to know you a little. I step out and invite a couple of kids in that I think have a similar background or similar story or might relate to them in some kind of way, and let them just bond for a bit. But it's definitely more common that the parents jump right on wanting to talk to another parent, whereas our anxious teens are a little bit hesitant to reach out to a stranger, engage with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's understandable. Let's speak a little bit on your specialization or your niche positioning. I know we talked a little bit on anxiety and OCD, and I think we come across a lot of facilities where sometimes they say you can't really be a jack of all trades because then you're marketing to no one. And that gravitating effect, simply like magnetism almost, when you're very committed to what your strengths are and your superpowers, and who your program is specifically designed for, that can be very effective, especially in a crowded, saturated market. How has your specialization impacted your growth in your view over the last years?
Yeah, I think it's made a big difference. I think there's only part of it is because even within our niche, there's only a certain amount of programs out there offering residential level care for anxiety and OCD. So there's only a couple of us across the country. And then I think you got to really lean into what are your differentiators from there. So for us, it's the fact that we're a non-clinical setting. We're on a 25-acre farm in rural New Hampshire. You're not in a hospital. You're not in a place with fluorescent lights and white walls, right? You're in an old New England style bed and breakfast, living on a farm, taking care of animals, like while doing the same kind of therapy you would be getting at one of these other places. But the environment's more relaxed. It feels more like camp. We have fun, but we play practical jokes on each other, on the executive director, right? It's got like this kind of like almost like boarding school feel and vibe to it. And then one of our other big differentiators is the fact that we use occupational therapists, and that we're not focused on symptom reduction only. We're focused on functional outcomes, right? OTs are really focused on, yes, we want to treat the disability or the challenge, but we want to make sure that after that's done with, like you're actually able to re-engage in school and build relationships and do your homework and do all the things that you're actually capable of doing. And so I think the niche of being anxiety and OCD specific, and almost every behavioral healthcare company across the country, whether you're anxiety OCD specific or not, had anxiety listed on there. Just such a common emotional experience, the comorbidity, but it's like that we're very specific. We're anxiety and OCD specific, and then we're non-clinical. right? So as far as like the feel and the style in which we relate and engage with one another. And then we also supplement this very specific treatment, which is exposure therapy, with this kind of wraparound, holistic occupational therapy kind of approach that helps you understand or that helps make sure that after the treatment is done, you're actually able to engage in your life again. So I do think that that separates us a bit. One thing I think I didn't anticipate, which has been great for our growth, is like with the OT lens, people have associations to what that means. And a lot of people associate occupational therapists with working with kids with autism. And so we've had a lot more people reach out to us with their child who's on the autism spectrum, also experiencing anxiety, but saying, can you work with my child when they have a neurodevelopmental disability like autism? And it's, you know what, we actually uniquely are positioned to do that. Maybe in a way another program's not, because we have professionals on the team that understand that neuroprofile and how to adapt a typical cognitive-based therapy to a kiddo who has a different brain that works in a different kind of way.
Phenomenal. I think the industry definitely needs more niche positioning, and I see it. Because I see so many facilities are looking at the numbers that's on the front end, and it typically yields more effectiveness and less resistance when it comes to the admissions process and extended care, higher alumni engagement, etc. Because they really believe into the program, they know they come to the right place, and are more maybe committed to it. Speaking on that to the listeners that are watching this on YouTube, and we were sharing a little bit on your website. I simply love on the comment on the topic of transparency. You're showing the schedule, you're showing the curriculum, you're showing the facility. They get a view to the rooms, etc. So as a parent, as a teen, you know exactly what you're walking into, and then that you further open up the doors and allow people to come in and with this a session or speak with alumni. I think that's taking an open approach to a whole different level of what I typically see. So congrats on that.
Thanks.
On that
And to your
topic,
point, none of those are stock photos. Going through right now. Those are kids.
awesome.
Kids who actually came and participated in the treatment. Those are pictures of braille activities happening on campus. They're not stock photos. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I sometimes think that people don't, it's so obvious when it's stock photos, and it's like that classic person opens a company and they have this fake big building in the background. It's so obvious. It's all you can relate to it. Show the real people there. It's just, it changes the types. You guys are certainly, you take it to the whole next level. In your view, and I think we could talk a lot more about your approach and specialization. I find it's very impressive, and something I think a good endorsement to how a program with that openness can help a program or facility thrive like you guys are doing. And given that you're very purpose-driven and want to help more teenagers, more families, and end the suffering, if you had a magic wand and you was like wish for some changes in the industry for the better, what would that be, or what would you encourage listeners tuning into this episode to do?
Make as much of an attempt as you can. I know it's not always possible to speak and have an opportunity to engage with every single person before they come into your facility. Whether it's, we try to do Zoom. Like I said, we do visits, so with tiers, right? Visits number one. We'd love to get you to come, meet you in person, walk you around, eat lunch with you, enjoy you a little bit. You get to know us, we get to know you. If not, a Zoom call. Modern technology now allows us to relate in ways that's better than a phone call, and then a phone call, and then a text message, or at least some email. But I would never take a kid in my treatment center who I haven't had the opportunity to engage with ahead of time. I just wouldn't do it. They don't know me. I don't know them. And I know a lot of people like, can I transport my kid to you guys? I'm like, no, you can't. It's not going to work. It's not go well. And so, and I understand that might be different for my population of kids that I serve to some other people. And I understand the need for involuntary commitment and treatment. And I was on the inpatient side of things for a while, and I understand that. But if possible, like if you're not in that line of work, get to know the people before they come and really get to understand who they are and what they're looking to get out of the program. If they have a different expectation that what your value proposition is, man, that's a recipe for disaster and for poor outcomes and for poor satisfaction. Even if a kid doesn't have questions for me, I'll often be like, well, I know you don't have any questions, but there's things I need to tell you right off the bat. You're not going to be able to make a phone call for the first week home. You're not going to be able to have your cell phone for the first month. You're not going to be able to go to visit with your family for the first month. And even if they didn't ask me those questions proactively, I'm like, I want to make sure you know this before you come in.
Mm.
I want to be really transparent. And so when this comes up and you have some feelings about it, that you weren't like, you guys didn't tell me, or you swindled me, or whatever else the narrative zone is, team industry, pieces of things. It's just, here it all is. I documented it. It was in a conversation. We talked about all of it, right? Then you know what you're getting yourself into, for better or worse.
That's some very good advice and very applicable to a process of making sure that you're checking off these items, not just to qualify them, but to your point, it's all about setting expectations. Do you know what you're entering? What's the desired outcome? Are we aligned on that outcome? What does success look like, essentially? And I think when you skip that part of the process, doesn't even matter what industry you're in, leaving too much up for chance or coincidence. And in an industry where trust and is such an important factor for establishing authority and the confidence of sending your team to a treatment program, I think it's sounds like a no-brainer, must-have ingredient in the process. So thanks for sharing that, Zach. You dropped a hell of a lot of golden nuggets during this interview. Thank you so much. I just want to leave our listeners with, if people want to learn more about you or Mountain Valley Treatment, and what's the best way to get in contact with you? How do they find your podcast? What's the best channels to get a hold of you?
Yeah, obviously, you guys have, your podcast production is phenomenal, by the way. You guys did a really good job showcasing the website throughout. So www.mountainvalleytreatment.org. At the bottom of that page is our director of enrollment, Everett Logan. His phone is on 24/7, 365. He's ready to engage with anybody who might be interested in learning more about the services that we have to offer. For me, in the spirit of transparency, I'll walk the talk, right? My cell phone number is 603-60-4. Text me, call me, whatever you want. That's how I operate too. I'm definitely on 365, 24/7 running the facility. Just let me know and we can find a time to speak. My email address is my first initial Z, last name Schafer, SCHAFER @mountainvalleytreatment.org. My email gets a lot of spam, so it's much harder to get a hold of me that way. You're better off texting or cold calling me, and I'll probably get back to you a lot quicker. And then for the podcast, it's Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, that's called Fearless. So two words, Fearless. And yeah, that's where you can listen to some of the content that we're putting out there.
Phenomenal. Zach, thank you so much for sharing your notion, your methodology, and all these golden nuggets that I hope many listeners can apply to the day-to-day facility, so we get more folks access to the care they deserve and help the suffering that it causes families. It's a pleasure having you here. Welcome you to come back and we can expand on the different topics. It was a great conversation. Thank you again so much for participating in the conversation.
Appreciate the opportunity, Gary. Thanks for all you're doing to help mental health care facilities grow in ways that are healthy and supportive, right? I see a lot of people out there helping people grow, but it's not in ways that are in the best interest of the people we're actually trying to serve. So I really appreciate the mission that you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Great. I'm glad it was worth the wait. So thank you so much again. Keep up the good work, man. It's just phenomenal to hear about your program, and as I start diving deeper into it. So wishing you all the best, and please stay in touch, and you're more than welcome to join the episode again. Join us for round 2 down the road.
Sounds good, man. Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you, man. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you liked the content you heard today, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next show.